Hi, Diane here, and welcome to this week's Weekly Diva video. This is my quarterly check-in on my performance review for the year. I will try to put a link up there someplace for the first video that explained this whole project, which is the Weekly Diva Performance Review, which is the idea of applying an annual performance review to your life, your personal life, to make sure you stay on track and strive for happiness and productivity and achieving your goals. So we are 1 quarter into the year. We are 3 months into the year. I didn't actually start it on January 1st, but we're just going to pretend that I did so that we now from here on out, I will be on track. So what I thought I would do this time is kind of go through where I am. Last month I did a month recap, but since it's the quarter, I'm just going to kind of roll those 3 months together. So the first category of the review, oh, and you will see the boss peeps are right back there on the bed, so they'll be watching. Okay, so first category of the review is the budget. It's finances. And my goal, I did set a budget this year for my business, and it's less than what I spent last year, but I felt like it was a reasonable number. I went over budget in March, but I am still under budget for the first quarter. And I'm going to say that I'm okay with being over budget, which of course I am, I did it, but still, I made a couple of decisions in March. I registered to go to a conference in May, which I had to pay the registration fee in March. And I hired someone for some work on one of my books, and they weren't planned expenses. I kind of wasn't sure if I was going to do them or not, but I kind of, as I got into the month, I saw the benefit to doing them. So that was like 2 hits that kind of put me over the edge. I did have a couple of expenses in there that I probably didn't need, some things that I sort of jumped into and just did. And that I'm going to talk about later when I get to the eyes on the own paper thing, because that's still a problem for me. But overall finances, income, I'm actually doing better than when I recapped in February. I'm doing a little better than I thought I was doing, so I'm happy. So I'm going to continue this whole current budget. I'm not going to do a lot of changes to that. I'm going to keep using those goals as is. So moving on to the next category that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to do management skills. And there are 7 categories on here. And since this is the quarterly one, I'm just going to kind of talk through, I'm going to talk through the ones that really are critical for me. And one of those was education and development. And this was the category that really gets into physical health being as important as mental health, reading and recognizing bad habits. So this continues to be a win for me. And this was not one that I thought was going to be a win. I actually thought, because I don't like to exercise all that much, but I knew it was important. I know it's important. Not just from a physical standpoint, but it's also important because you have to take care of your whole body if you want your brain to work. If you want to be productive, you can't just sit down and think your brain's going to work and ignore everything else. I know this. So the thing was, I started out saying, I'm going to drink 7 glasses of water a day. That was my big goal, physically. And I started drinking 7 glasses of water a day. And after I started doing that, I thought, well, you know what else I should do? I really should start exercising. So I'm at my parents' house still. There's a treadmill in the basement. So I thought, I'm going to get on the treadmill. So I started getting on the treadmill. And and the funny thing is I like to snack on pretzels. So the first time I was on the treadmill, I walked for 45 minutes and I watched the little carb counter. And it took 45 minutes for me to burn off the carbs that are in one large sourdough pretzel. That was disappointing to learn. So the next time I go on, I thought, well, maybe I'll just go a little faster and go a little longer, and maybe I'll use the incline. And I kept kind of playing around with that. Well, I am kind of shocked by this, so I'm going to share this with you because this is like mind-boggling that I now burn that same pretzel off. Yesterday was a personal record, 15 minutes and 25 seconds. So I started off 45 minutes to burn off that pretzel. Now I'm at a little above 15 minutes. I really didn't think I was going to get under 20. It's just from engaging the incline and going a little bit faster, but mostly the incline. But the thing is that it really opened my eyes that There are things we say we want to do and we think they're hard and we do them. And as we do them, we realize there's a way to make those things easier. This is like a big light bulb moment because it's not just the treadmill, it's life. It's like everything we do, that we take projects on and we think they're going to be super hard. And we learn to do them smarter and better and more effectively. And you know what? It's okay. I actually look forward to my time on the treadmill now. I get on around 2 o'clock every day, put on my earphones. I put on an audiobook or a podcast. Right now I'm listening to Tim Gunn. So it's like this nice, fun thing I get to do. And I did not expect my exercise to become this fun thing that I did every day. So that is a major plus. And because I started drinking the water and then I started doing the treadmill, I thought, well, I'm going to start getting up a little earlier in the day. So I started setting an alarm. I haven't used an alarm in like 20 years. I just prided myself on the fact that I just woke up whenever I wanted to wake up. But I thought, no, I think I actually want to start getting up at least by 6:30. I'm not a morning person, so that was a big deal. So I set the bedtime app on my phone to tell me when it was 10:30 at night and wake me up at 6:30 in the morning. And now for like 2 weeks, I've been getting up at 6:30, no problem. So again, this is pretty like major for me because it all kind of shows that when we focus on these things, we can make these positive improvements and it's really not all that hard. So I'm giving myself a big plus there, and I'm hoping that inspires you to try something little, because something little can snowball and become have a much bigger impact on you. So there's that one. Organizing was another area I wanted to work. And I actually had made a note on here: and manages time well and does not fritter unnecessarily. Well, I don't think I've been frittering that much, but I have allowed unimportant things to take up part of my day. In fact, when I just recapped the month of March of what I spent my time doing, did I do it on creative work? Did I do it on admin work? Where did I spend my time? I really was surprised at how an entire month went by where I basically spent my time doing little things. There were things that had to get done, so I don't regret doing those things, but they weren't big drivers in me achieving my goals. So I've got to really think about that some more. And I think that's one of the things I challenge everybody to do. If there's little things that are taking up your time, see if there's a way to offload them and either hire somebody to do them or ask somebody to do them, or maybe they're not that important and maybe some of those things can just not be done. So that's something I'm going to work on for the next quarter. I'm really going to think a lot about that and where I can maybe, where I can keep myself doing the big things that are going to help me get to my goals. The last category I'm going to talk about under the management skills section is love. And I'm going to talk about this because I have decided I'm thinking about this category all wrong. When I started, I kind of thought, well, you know what? I'm not interested in love. I'm not going to worry about love. I'm just giving myself a pass there. That's not my priority. And each month, when the month is over, I have a journal that has a little page where you rate yourself for the how you perform for the month and where you score yourself. And I got to the love category and I gave myself a 0 and I moved on. And then I started realizing how stupid that was, because I think about how many emails do I send where at the end I say, love you. How many emails I get where people write to me and say they love me. How I know my parents love me and I love my parents and my sister and you guys. And like, it's like this weird misfiring going on where I'm not accepting what the meaning of love is. So that has changed the way I think there. And I think we all need to consider that too, is that love is around us all the time. There are people who do love us and support us and are there for us. And we need to recognize that and appreciate that. That's definitely something I haven't thought about that much, because I just kind of thought, I was equating love with relationship, and I'm changing the way so that's a big goal for me for next quarter. Okay. That is it for the management skills section. Now we're going to go on to page 3, which is leadership. Leadership. I have creates a climate for success. I had originally given myself and achieves expectations there from last year. And when I read through it today, the 3 things that really explain this category are: lifts others up through compliments, praise, and encouragement with no expected reciprocity, is not available for negativity, gossip, and whining, and is liberal with congratulations for others. Well, I am going to say that I think I'm giving myself a star on this category for two reasons. I've told you that I get a little bit distracted with other people's stories, with negativity, or with other things that other people are doing, and I think, ooh, I should do that too. Well, because it kind of got to the point where I just thought, this is a problem, I need to take drastic measures, I started leaving some groups where I thought that there was some negativity. I started unsubscribing from things that I didn't need to be subscribed to. I started really being actively curating the world around me, the online world around me. In addition to that, I started, I put out Bonbons for Your Brain this month, and that to me was a book for you. That was a book that was really meant to inspire you and motivate you and help you feel a little less alone and a little bit more like your goals are achievable. It's bite-sized essays that are just really meant to help you frame your world in with it like a little cheerleader behind you. And so that came out, so I felt like that contributed to that as well. So I'm happy about those accomplishments. And the other thing on this page is motivator, and same thing, I'm kind of looping those together, and I'm saying that I think that was a strength for me this quarter, so I'm going to continue to build on that, and I hope I can continue to bring you content that will help inspire and motivate you to achieve your goals too. Now, all of that being said, I have to continue to give myself a big fat fail on the fear category, because under fear, it says practices eyes on own paper approach to life, finding contentment within and not through what others have, does not allow FOMO to dictate life path. So this was my big challenge first month. I knew it was something to pay attention to. Last month when I did my recap, I acknowledged it was a problem. This month I'm acknowledging it's way more of a problem than I ever thought it was, because I caused myself a lot of extra work this quarter because I took on some projects I didn't need to take on, largely because I saw some other people did some things and I thought, oh, maybe I should do that. So I dropped everything. I took on some projects that probably ate up at least a week of my life. They were projects that were rooted in low energy, administrative, task-oriented types of things. And I really much prefer the creative projects. I prefer the writing, designing, the higher energy things. So I kind of drained myself. I did these things. Then I wasn't happy, but I convinced myself that I did them, I have to be decisive, so I'm going to stick by them. So a whole month went by where I tried to spend energy convincing myself that I did the right thing by taking on these projects to begin with. And what ended up happening at the end was I just said to myself, you know what? It was a mistake. Undo everything, and not undo, but change again. So it took even more time. So I lost a lot of time for a project that I didn't really need. And it was because I wasn't really focused on my own goals. I was more focused on everybody else. So again, like I said, I've left some groups that I belong to, and I've really paid attention to my world to try to curate the people around me, because I think this is pretty critical. I also just read a book called The One Thing. I recommend this book. It helps you really frame out what that number one most important thing is to you and why you focus on that one thing. It's called The One Thing, so it's about the one thing, but you have to figure out your one thing. I have to figure out my one thing. But it really, it's something that I have a tendency to, I see lots of shiny objects. I have shiny object syndrome. And I'll get an idea and go, oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to go back to school and get a degree for that. Oh, I'm going to write this. I'm going to write that. Oh, I'm going to design this. Oh, I'm going to, and you know this, you see me, you know how I am. So it's kind of it's forcing me to corral all of that. And instead of just having like 20 different things, have one thing and then maybe offshoots of that one thing. So anyway, so that is still my big goal, is that combating fear of just going my own path, which I like my own path. I like the path that I envision for myself. I hope you like the path that you envision for yourself. So the thing is not just liking that path, but remembering that that path is our chosen, what we have chosen that we're going to do, and sticking on that path and not getting distracted by all that other stuff around, all those shiny objects that are lying all around us. So that is that. Now, those are the highlights for for my whole quarter. There are some other categories that are pretty much haven't changed. I think, I know I flipped my pages all over, but I think in general, personal growth, technology, style, problem solving, personal indulgences, communicating, I think those kind of have all maintained where they were. I don't think I've gone up or down in those categories, but those are all the other categories that are on here. So I think what it comes down to is I've been blown away by the results of the whole physical health thing, the focusing, starting with the water, going into the exercising, going into the getting up earlier thing. Not only that, because I'm doing the walking with the podcast or the book, one of my goals was to read at least one nonfiction book a month. I think I'm ahead on that. I think I did 2 last month. I've already finished, it's like April 5th, 6th, and I've already finished my one and I'm halfway through another one. So that's a really good snowball, and that's a really good indicator. So that one, I want you to pay attention to that and do that in your own life too, because I think that's surprising how easy that was. So that's the highlight. Since technically, I know I counted Bonbons for Your Brain as an accomplishment on here for the first quarter, but technically that came out on April 2nd. So that's really a second quarter accomplishment. I'm a little late doing this recap, but I think that's the big thing for this next quarter for me, is really focusing on creativity, continuing to focus on not being afraid to just keep my vision clear, and continuing to try to inspire and motivate you to take on your own goals as well. Diane again. Okay, so I just went through the whole video and I forgot to give credit to one of my friends, Stacy Verdict Case, who is also doing, she's the one who inspired me to kind of sit down at the beginning of the year and do kind of like a mind map of where I wanted to be at the end of the year and what I needed to do to get there, and just brainstorm out any ideas I could get to. And she is also doing these check-in videos, and she just posted hers the other day. So I'm going to put a link to hers as well. She is awesome. She's a friend of mine, and I like the fact that she's in her own way focused on the same kind of things that I am, but we're not looking at the same goals. And it's inspiring to watch somebody else try to pursue her goals too, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this, so I can help inspire you, which is what I said. But I wanted to make sure I gave credit to her, because she really did have a lot to do with me sitting down, doing a mind map, which I've never done. I didn't even know what that was, and coming up with all sorts of ideas of things that I could do, things that I should do, things that I hadn't been doing. And also, by doing that, when you figure out the things you should do, what happens is you realize anything that doesn't make that list, it's probably the stuff you're doing that you don't need to do. So anyway, shout out to Stacy for being on the journey. Okay, and if you are on your own Weekly Diva Performance Review journey, send me an email or leave a comment below and let me know how you think you're doing so far. Okay, thank you for watching.